Okay, so you've had comparatives for this chapter. Now is the second half of the chapter. We're going to learn the fourth declension. And like in the third declension, the hard part is going to be matching nouns and adjectives of different declensions. First off, you don't have to worry about adjectives. There are no adjectives in the fourth declension, only nouns. That's nice. So the first three declensions are all the adjectives you'll ever have. You're done with adjectives. It's over. Nice. Instead here, therefore, I'm going to match this fourth declension noun to a second declension adjective. Why am I going to do that? Because notice the color here. Fourth declension is a 99% masculine declension. Fifth declension later on will be feminine, but fourth declension is almost completely masculine. Now you see I have a column here for neuters, because there are a few neuter words. And actually there's 1.5 feminine words too. The word for hand, manus, is fourth declension feminine. It's also the word for a band of men, like a hand of men. And the word domus can be second or fourth declension. And in both cases, it has these masculine-looking endings, but it's feminine. How weird is that? Okay, but 99% are masculine endings. So obviously, therefore, I would match it up with a second declension adjective, because second declension is the masculine neuter declension, right? So obviously, right? Okay. In the fourth declension, there aren't any neuters, hardly. There's like 5 neuters maybe. Cornu is, I think, the only one we have in this course, and you don't even get it until some later chapter. So you don't even have any fourth declension neuters. So you could actually just like ignore this neuter column here. Of course, it's really easy to memorize it. You know, the genitive us is the sign of the fourth declension, and it also gives you the stem, because remember, you remove the us to get the stem. But everywhere else, it's just oo. So that's kind of easy. Alrighty, let's move on. So first, we're going to get a noun from the fourth declension, like armies, and we have to match it up with an adjective, like lati, wide. How nice. Armies, wide, wide armies. Try another. Exercitus lati, of the wide army. Passum multorum, of the many paces, the many steps. Metum autem, a high goal. So this is pretty easy. You're getting the hang of it, right? Equitatu inimico, with the enemy cavalry. All these war words this chapter. You can also have a third declension adjective, and this is going to be a little harder because fourth is very similar to second and is a little less similar to third, but it's still pretty similar. So, exercitus tenuis, of the weak army. Now notice how similar that is to the nominative, exercitus tenuis, the weak army. Now, if you were listening to it, you could hear a difference, because this one is high-pitched and that one is just normal. But if you didn't hear it, then you'd have to watch out for that macron mark there, right? Exercitus tenues, the weak armies. That one's pretty similar too. So here the adjective is the giveaway that this is nominative plural. View these in units, because there are lots of clues when you don't look on something as just one word, but look all around it and see what it might be matching up with, what other adjectives can give away its case. Of course, you're going to be writing this stuff. That would just be if you're reading. If you're writing this stuff, then it's pretty easy to write it exactly the way you want to write it. So that's not too hard. Okay, Dominus exercitum, Lord of hosts, of armies, or Lord of all armies. Exercitum omnium. Metum possibilem, a possible goal. Equitatu forti, with the strong cavalry, or the brave cavalry. So where does this fourth declension come from? Well, it comes from the Greek fourth declension, and that comes from the Greek third declension, even further back. In fact, this Greek third declension is the source or juncture point of fourth declension and third declension. And you'll see that here. Notice how these go. So like sarx, flesh, and ichthus, fish. So ichthus is the one you want to concentrate on for now because it's going to be so similar to our fourth declension. Ichthuos is where you get that oos form. Ichthuos, thus. Ichthui is where you get that ui form. Isn't that neat? So now you know where this stuff comes from. Un becomes ues becomes oos. So fourth declension is kind of a marriage between second and third. Ichthuon is where you get and ichthusin is where you get ibus. And then for those of you who are overachievers, you can look back even further into the Greek third declension and see how this Greek fourth is kind of a variation on Greek third, which is much more common. So, hey, someday you might learn Greek, and having learned fourth declension, you'll have a much easier time with those Greek words. Okay, so third declension is ultimately where fourth declension comes from. So the hard part, though, I'm sorry people, the hard part of this is going to be matching with other declensions. So notice corresponding rows, because these are the ones you're going to have to match, and notice common similarities. So O occurs in 2 places, E in 4 places, Is and Ibus in 2 places, Ace, Oos is all over the map, over here in fourth declension. In 4 places. Ooa. Oo is all over the map in the neuters, but you're not going to have to worry about that. And you always have this variable neuter form that for one termination adjectives could be anything. Often, of course, it is like in triste, but not always, only in 2 and 3 termination ones. And now you have another also. So hopefully you can learn these. If not, you'll just have to slowly start recognizing them and making corrections for the mistakes that you make. All right, so recall the other masculine endings that could possibly go with ui. Take a moment and think. Oh yeah, that's dative singular. It has to be. So we need to pull out masculine dative singulars out of the second and third declension. Masculine dative singulars. What could you have? Well, you could have E in third declension, or you could have O in second declension, right? So really, it's not first declension at all. It's just second and third that we're matching up with. So like bono equitatui or forti equitatui, for the good or the strong cavalry. Try another one. Ibus. What endings could we pull out of the second and third declension to go with this? Obviously, just one. So that could be ablative or dative. What about ooh? But here, don't even worry about the neuters. Just do the masculines. Well, if it's masculine, it could only be ablative, right? So what are your possible masculine ablative adjectival endings from second and third declension? E and O. Now, Mr. Redmond, I thought the ablative of third declension was eh. Yeah, but no, because remember, we need an adjective here, and that would be a doubly trebly I stem, right? Third declension adjectives have I rather than E, okay? Now, you will get E sometimes, but not until chapter 14, because that requires a construction called an ablative absolute. So yeah, it is possible to have with the army as an enemy, but not for 2 more chapters. Okay, so that's hopefully clear. Let's keep going. Try this one. I stem third declension or second declension. Of the heavy or the stupid fears. Oos. Uh-oh, this is hard. What are all the cases that this could be? Cases and numbers. Ooh. Lots of possibilities. It could be genitive singular, nominative plural, or accusative plural, depending how you say it. Oos or oos. So let's do genitive singular first. It would be e or is. Nominative plural would be e or ace, and accusative plural would be os or ace, right? So let's see this, a real example. Of a sick or weak army, sick or weak armies, and sick or weak armies. Now, what about this fourth declension ending? Obviously, it's a nominative, right? Because it doesn't have a macron over it. So pull out masculine second and third declension nominatives. What are you going to have? Well, that variable third declension and us. So brevis and longus. All right, so that's the new agreements that you'll have to watch out for and create yourself as you write. So why don't you try it yourself? Notice what's going to have to match and notice the similarities. Okay, so you're going to use this glossary to do the next 2 slides. So this is a story about the Roman army on the march, when it's just moving down the road. So put a fourth declension noun into each one of these blanks. And hopefully you'll get the right case based on the translation I ask for and what it's matching. And of course over here on the right you see the picture of what's being described in these 8 sentences. Okay, so stop the video and start it again when you're ready to see the answers. Hopefully you are able to do that, just writing out fourth declensions. And now do it again, writing both the fourth declension and the matching adjective of some other declension. Stop the video and start it again when you're ready to see the answers. All right, so you have now learned the fourth declension. You're good to go for chapter 12. Hope you enjoyed it and see you in the next chapter. Walete!